I knew we were back. I can see the red light just as well as you can. Fleetwood Mac Special. That is what Martha and I have been sitting around for, waiting. I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready, Al.
You look like it. Let's go. Fleetwood Mac Special right here. Very good.
Mirage. The word conjures an image of a long-sought oasis in the desert, a lush illusion in the distance. But for Fleetwood Mac, Mirage is no illusion. It's the latest oasis on the caravan for Fleetwood Mac, a group whose journey has been filled with twists and turns and peopled with nomadic musicians. Fleetwood Mac was originally formed in 1967 by guitarist Peter Green, bassist John McVie, and drummer Mick Fleetwood, all former members of John Mayall's Blues Breakers. Along with slide guitarist Jeremy Spencer, the group recorded their first album together in 1968.
Don't look for no worries. Worries and troubles come around.
The first few albums from this new band were firmly rooted in the blues and were quite popular in England.
When you squeeze me, baby, make me holler, whoa, whoa, whoa.
But it wasn't until Santana recorded a Fleetwood Mac song called Black Magic Woman that the American public started to hear the name Fleetwood Mac.
I got a black magic woman. I got a black magic woman. Yes, I got a black magic woman. Got me so blind I can't see.
In 1969, Danny Kerwin joined the group as a third guitarist on the album Then Play On. Like most bands at the end of the 60s, Fleetwood Mac began to take a more experimental direction. But in May of 1970, just as the band was beginning to find a distinctive style of its own, Peter Green's growing interest in religion prompted him to retire from the music business.
Can't help about the shape I'm in. I can't sing, I ain't pretty, and my legs are thin. But don't ask me what I think of you. I might not give the answers that you want me to.
He just doesn't want anything to do with this business at all, period. That's really the main gripe that he had. Not in the States, but certainly in Europe, we were very successful with Peter Green fronting the band. I mean, he started Fleetwood Mac. And left his mark, although in actual fact he was only with the band, I think, a little over 2 years, and yet people still ask about Peter Green.
Without Peter Green at the helm, Fleetwood Mac sailed on under the creative leadership of Jeremy Spencer and Danny Kerwin. This version of the band was augmented in the studio by John McVie's wife, singer-keyboardist Christine McVie. They managed to record one album, Kiln House, before suffering another defection in the ranks. Jeremy Spencer, in the middle of an important U.S. tour in 1971, met a member of a religious cult on the street and disappeared without notice.
He's still with the Children of God. As a musician, he was lazy. He never developed in the way that I was always going on for him to do.
To replace Jeremy Spencer as a singer-songwriter, the band added Christine McVie as a permanent member and recruited California-bred guitarist Bob Welsh. Beginning with the album Future Games in 1971, it became increasingly difficult to detect Fleetwood Mac's original blues roots. 1972's Bare Trees album was their most successful yet in the U.S. But once again, the band was going through changes. This time, Danny Kerwin left, replaced by guitarist Bob Weston. This edition of the group released 2 albums over the next year, Penguin and Mystery to Me.
That's why it seems like they got me hypnotized.
But somehow, things just didn't work out. By 1973, a series of personality clashes threatened to end the band. Bob Weston departed, And amidst the confusion, the group's manager claimed the rights to the name Fleetwood Mac, assembling a new group without any of the original members for an American tour. A long series of court battles ensued, preventing the real Fleetwood Mac from working for over a year. By 1974, the band had finally won their legal disputes, and after deciding to relocate in Los Angeles, settled their personal difficulties long enough to record a new album, Heroes Are Hard to Find. The stability in the band was brief. Early in 1975, Bob Welsh became the next member to leave.
A great friend, you know, what can I say? I mean, he was a major part of Fleetwood Mac's legacy. And he made his choice when he left Fleetwood Mac to go off and spend some time just rethinking what he wanted to do, and then came up, with his first album, and he's been going ever since. I think he's doing pretty good.
Once again, faced with the possibility of the dissolution of Fleetwood Mac, Mick Fleetwood remembered an album he'd heard by a duo called Buckingham Nicks. After tracking down the struggling pair of songwriters, he took them totally by surprise, inviting them to become members of the band. The result was an album simply titled Fleetwood Mac, a record that went on to become the band's biggest seller up to that time.
If you can take me to paradise, and then again you can be cold as ice, I'm over my head.
When Stevie and I joined the band, something that was brought to the band, the chemistry that was created by this particular fivesome from the first record, we were really doing quite well. By the time Rhiannon was a hit, it was very clear that there was something that was happening that was very commercial, and I think Warner Brothers respected that. Certainly the track record between that album and Rumors more or less spoke for itself, and there was really very little intervention, and still is, to Warner Brothers' credit, from the label in terms of trying to direct any artistic urges that we have.
After finally achieving the popularity that they'd always strived for, trouble once again struck the group. John and Christine McVie ended their 7-year marriage. Mick Fleetwood and his wife were divorced, and Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks split up their long-term relationship. Despite the emotional strain, the band stayed together. The songs on the next album, Rumors, reflected their situation.
Loving you isn't the right thing to do.
The fact that people took a great interest in what later became known as the musical soap opera. 4 of the band members were 2 couples, that those 2 couples were breaking up simultaneously during the beginning of the project, that we had to separate those feelings of pain at that time from the feeling that we had an important project that we had to finish, that we had to really keep our priorities straight. I think all of that is fairly apparent on the disc, and people really appreciated that sense of drama that was going on, because it was a very real sense of drama, and it was also something that a lot of other people could relate to, just a very common relationship problem. So that in itself, I think, had a lot to do with it. And it wasn't something that we were consciously trying to do in terms of, singing to each other on the album or whatever. It's just that those songs were written about what was happening at the time. And aside from whatever critique you can make of the music or the accessibility of it or the commerciality of it, I mean, I think beyond a certain point, that really took over in terms of sales, and there was an aura about the album that had to do with all of that.
After the phenomenal success of Rumors, the band was under a lot of pressure to deliver an equally commercial follow-up album. Instead, they released Tusk, one of the most eccentric albums of their career.
Why don't you tell me what's going on? Why don't you tell me latest on us roll? Just
was apparent that it wasn't going to sell 10 million albums or 16 million albums, there was almost a tendency to turn around and give me the blame for not selling a lot more albums, you know, which was kind of hurt me in a way, because they had been supportive at the time, and then later on when the commercial thing didn't pan out or whatever, which is, you know, I don't know what that means, but I can remember Mick saying, you know, well, you went too far. And I was afraid that there was going to be a big push to really go back to a Rumors format, and we haven't really done that.
The Tusk album was definitely we were a bit more isolated from each other. We didn't spend so much time as a group. It wasn't such much of a group project as this new one, Mirage, seems to have been.
I think it wasn't necessarily the songs themselves that were inaccessible on Tusk, but just the way they were done. The arrangements themselves were somewhat fragmented at times, and that was done for a reason as well.
Tusk was very necessary for the survival of this band in terms of the music side of it. It wasn't necessarily commercially the best thing to do, but for the reasons internally, it was very important that we did that album.
Although it sold well, Tusk never achieved the record-breaking success of Rumors. After an extensive period on the road and a live album, the members of the band decided to go their own way for a while to work on solo projects. With the members of Fleetwood Mac working on solo projects, Mick Fleetwood took the time to fulfill a lifelong dream, traveling to the African nation of Ghana. With the help of some local musicians, he recorded The Visitor.
The Visitor really is a dream I've had for many years, having traveled fairly extensively in Africa through the years, of being able to not only play with African musicians, but to take musicians, Western musicians, if you like, to Africa. So it was a long process, probably started about 10 years ago, I would imagine.
Mick Fleetwood plans to continue his recording projects outside of Fleetwood Mac. He's already thinking ahead to his next solo album.
The Visitor album, although the situation was at least fairly extraordinary, the way that the album was, the cosmetics of the album were actually pretty smooth in terms of, the way the album was produced was totally not the way I'm going to hopefully get this one done. There'll be just, hopefully, mainly just a three-piece feel to it, you know, guitar, bass and drums, and minimal interference in terms of orchestrations or, you know, be a lot of drums on it.
From Stevie Nicks, it was Belladonna. It went on to become one of the top records of the year, with songs like Edge of 17 and her duet with Tom Petty, Stop Dragging My Heart Around.
Baby, you come knocking on my front door. Same old line you used to use before. That's it, yeah, well, what am I supposed to do? I didn't know what I was getting into. So you had a little trouble in town. Now you're keeping some demon down. Stop dragging my heart around.
It just comes out, and, you know, I mean, I play everything that I've got for Fleetwood Mac, and they pick what they want, and then what's left over or what I write new, I use for myself. It's not, you know, everything I have is available to them, and then I just write more things, you know.
Lindsey Buckingham's Law and Order album was a logical extension of his work on Tusk. Out of all the songs on the album, one in particular, Trouble, went on to become Buckingham's biggest hit as a solo artist.
Writing for me is a very difficult process. There's lots of ways to write. Stevie Nicks writes poetry and has a certain sense of melody, which isn't always very well developed. And that's where she's coming from. But you know, in the same way that a poem represents a certain feeling in a place and time, that's how her music is. The emotion from my music doesn't come as much from the lyric, or in some cases at all from the lyric. And I don't consider myself a poet in any sense of the word. I consider myself a painter of music. The emotion comes from the style and the music itself. In the way the Stones, I mean, the Stones' words are really secondary to the feel of the music, and that's where the feel is coming from in mine as well.
Christine McVie is the only songwriter in Fleetwood Mac who has yet to release a solo album, but with a backlog of songs, including a number she's written with collaborator Robbie Patton, a new Christine McVie album is certain to appear sometime in the near future.
I mean, I'd like to do about 7 of my own songs and 3 or possibly 4 of other people's, and maybe 1 old one, you know. I just want to make it a really interesting, varied album. You know, I'd like to do an old rock and roll song, a rehash actually of. Well, I keep my ideas keep changing actually. I want to do an old Everly Brothers song, and I want to do. There's a couple, like Robbie's written a couple of songs, Robbie Patton. I'm just working with a lot of different people right now. Hopefully I can get started by. Doesn't seem like I'll be able to start before next November now, since we're going to be working, you know, through with the touring with Fleetwood Mac. So. But I'm getting quite excited about it.
With everyone in the group involved in solo projects, rumors of a breakup were bound to circulate. But the members of the band see their individual projects as helping to strengthen the group.
The Tusk album enabled us to just have a few more songs. And you know, when you've got 3 writers in a band, and you're only doing a single album, it's really difficult to have that outlet that you need if you are a prolific writer and you have a lot of things to say in music. And, the solo projects are that outlet.
It's really kind of a healthy thing. If you can really schedule the things around each other, so they're not really stepping on each other's toes, then for my money, and I'm sure Stevie would say the same thing, and Mick as well, that the fact that we all did go out and do something that was a little more selfish for our own needs artistically, and something that made us happy for ourselves, because when you're in a group, it's always a constant sense of compromise, which is as it should be. But to be able to go out and do something for yourself, I think it really strengthens the whole. When all those elements come back together, they've gotten something out of their system. I think that, in a way, all of us doing solo projects has really strengthened the overall thrust of creativity that's gone into the Mirage album. And that's probably a lot different from what people would think, because people think, you know, they see a solo album, they think the group is broken up. But it's really just letting off steam, really.
After venting their creative steam into solo projects, the members of Fleetwood Mac turned their attention to the long-awaited group album.
The way we approached making Mirage was an attempt, you know, certainly to start with, to unify the 5 members. We have made this album exactly in the same way we would approach, and it's not musically the same, I hope, to goodness it's not, but in terms of regimenting what we should do or not do, there's no other influence other than internally. We just choose the songs we want to do, We prune them out in terms of, there's usually about 3 or 4 songs that don't make it onto an album and may get permanently shoved in a corner somewhere. And that's the way we approach it. We try to balance it out between the 3 songwriters, which is sort of a problem, but a good problem. But you have to be very aware of making sure that there's not too much of, you know, Lindsay or too much of Chris or Stevie come to that. So that's really the only thing that we have to worry about, is presenting the whole band as a band and make sure it's all in balance, you know.
Mirage was done certainly, it was a much more collective effort than Tusk was. I don't really think that Tusk was quite as fragmented as some people thought.
Some parts of Tusk were fragmented in terms of people, oh, you're in and out the studio, were you there, and you all hate each other and all that business. Had actually nothing to do with it at all. Purely and simply, Lindsay did a lot of work on his own on Tusk, versus this time the whole thing has been approached very much as a band unit, certainly all the rhythm section and so forth. So to that extent, it's somewhat being approached differently.
The Mirage album, John is playing all the basses, Mick's playing all the drums, Christine is playing a good deal of the keyboards, and there's a lot more vocalizing collectively than there was on the Tusk album. And at the same time, I would say that it's certainly not what you could call a reactionary album. There was a tendency after Tusk came out to certain people in the band and outside of the band to say, well, we've got to return to a Rumors format because that was a much more viable way of approaching it in terms of sales. And this is somewhat of, from my point of view, some of the best of both worlds. It's got an experimental edge to it, and at the same time, it's, I think, something that's going to be a lot more accessible to a broader number of people.
While the group's approach to recording Mirage may have been different, the public's response has been overwhelming, and once again, the band has a hit record on its hands. One of the most popular tracks on the album is Hold Me, a song co-written by Christine McVie.
I wrote Hold Me with Robbie Patton, actually. I can't even remember when, but it was just one of those songs that, you know, was just coughed up about midnight one night. It took us about an hour to just kind of plod through it, and it just seemed to have a nice kind of lollop to it. And originally I was singing it with Robbie, and the idea was, when I did it on this album, I was going to sing it along with myself, you know. It turned out that Lindsay sung the other part, and it, you know, it's just it's a pretty lightweight song. It doesn't have any heavy meaning in particular. The words are a little strange in places, but they just sound good in the track. So it's one of my triter songs. I mean, meaning-wise, I just like the melody and the feeling on it.
I don't want no damage, but how am I gonna manage you? You want a percentage, but I'm a fool paying the dues. I'm just around the corner if you got a minute to spare. I'll be waiting for you if you ever wanna be there.
You know, we only have a few songs each. I mean, I had 4, Lindsay has 4, I think Stevie has 3. And it just seemed, you know, when a painting's a little bit smaller, you can do a bit more detail on it, you know, and it's just easy to, but it was just fun for us. I think we just enjoyed each other's company a lot more on this particular album.
Mirage also features a Stevie Nicks composition called Gypsy, a song that's as beautiful to see as it is to hear.
Gypsy is about going back to the gypsy that I was prior to Fleetwood Mac.
I see.
To putting my bed back on the floor and moving all my speakers and everything, all my toys into a little room and kind of hibernating in there for a couple of months, a couple years ago.
And a memory is all that is left for you now. You see your gypsy. Oh, you see your gypsy. Ooh,
that many songs that each of us write that the others don't like in some form or other, which, you know, in the end, when you, if it's, say, Stevie's written a song, it ends up having a, like I say, in this particular case, we all work so much on each other's songs, it has a little flavour of every other band member anyway, you know.
It's been a reconciliation of opposites. One of the psychologists, probably Jung, I think, said that a reconciliation of opposites constitutes growth. So that was one extreme that was reached for, and then turning a corner and coming back and reconciling the best of what was learned from that with the best of what came before. So in that way, we feel very, very strong about this album, that it really represents a lot of different growth patterns, and it's a culmination of a lot of different things.
Fleetwood Mac is not the be-all and end-all of our lives. I think for many years I've certainly felt that nothing else existed other than Fleetwood Mac, and I don't think that's necessarily very healthy. I think it's been very healthy to find that there are other things you can do and still function within a working unit, as we are now. So I think it's been an extremely healthy thing for all of us to get out of the framework of Fleetwood Mac and to be able to come back. You know, I think you can be more objective about both ends, your own personal careers, or whatever you like to call it, plus your involvement with other people with Fleetwood Mac. I think it's helped a lot.
In the midst of all the rumors that have been flying around about the group, that we are coming out with an album that's a very strong statement. I think it means something that we're going out on the road and playing dates. That's as far as I can really predict, but we're still here, you know, so.
This album, which has been very much a group project, we've all really had a lot of fun.
I like the music better.
It was a total pleasure, musically mainly, and outside of that it was a whole lot of fun. Hard work, but a lot of fun.
Can you understand me? Baby, don't you hand me a line. Although it doesn't matter, you and me got plenty of time. There's nobody in the future, so baby, let me hand you my love. Oh, no step for you to dance to, so slip your hand inside of my glove.
I hope you enjoyed the Fleetwood Mac special. I'd like to, well, thank everybody here at MTV that helped us put that together. Next weekend, we've got a whole lot of great concerts and specials, and we'll be telling you all about it during the week. We'll get back into